to catch those. He's just going to be running those go routes, catching the balls on the outside, and he's lightning fast. Now, I haven't looked up at his 440 speed, but I'm going to assume it's in probably the 4.3, 4.35 range, because what I saw on screen, he was absolutely electric. Another name to look out for would be Melquise Stovall, 5'9", wide receiver, 185. He is also a freshman. Now, he's a bit different. He's more of a slot receiver. He is very, very quick as well. His cutting ability is awesome, and he's really deceptive. He's got that quick turn, quick stutter step. He puts you right off from word go. So, over the bubble screens through the middle, I reckon that's where you're going to see Melquise Stovall actually do his best work. The only other receiver that I could say to really look out for who's actually been there is Bug Rivera. Now, he's actually a 5'8", 175 receiver, and he's gone into his senior year. So he's the other one that I see. Probably the other main receiver that I see complementing the two other freshmen and Chad Hansen, who I spoke about just prior, who's in his junior year. I see those four as being the main wide receiver targets that all you folk in Sydney will see come the game time and that very first game and that kickoff. So keep those names written down, because I'm going to assure you that those four guys you'll see there, if not from the start, but you'll definitely see them introduced throughout the course of the game. Running backs. One of the areas that Cal does have a really good consistent room is their running backs. They've got Trey Watson, Vic Enware, and Khalfani Muhammad. Between these guys, man, they have done really super well. Combined, those three last year, they had 5.6. As I said, I need another coffee. I'm getting tired. It's late at night. I'm still trying to do my best here. But no, combined those three guys, they had 5.6 yards per carry on the season. Combined 1,585 yards. Compared to the rest of the country, when you're looking at people like Leonard Fournette, who's doing that, single-handed, you probably go, no, that's not a lot at all. But these guys, these guys have got still a lot of growing up to do in this concept, because, as I said before, you've got 30% running option in an air raid and 70% throwing. So these guys are never going to see a lot of ball in the first place. They're just not. So I'm just going to quickly run you through, what we're going to be looking at. So in Khalfani Muhammad, for example, he had 87 of 586 yards, 6.7 average. His longest was 74-yard run, and I'm going to tell you against who, and it breaks my heart, against who he ran that on. God damn it. He only had one touchdown, and I'm going to tell you why he only had one touchdown last year, even though he had, he had the most rushing yards on the team. But he's also his receiving yards as well are quite good. He had 17 for 189, 11.1 average, and 2 touchdowns. Now, as I said, the game where he had his longest is against my beloved Texas Longhorns. Of course he did, because that game absolutely devastated me last year. Bloody Nick Rose missing a PAT in the final minute or whatever the hell it was, and Cal ended up winning that game 45-44 in Austin, Texas. So he ended up, he ended up being one of the main reasons why Texas lost that game. He put up 164 yards that game, 16.4 average. Had the one touchdown, obviously, that's 74 long, so that absolutely killed me. But look, he's probably going to be one of your top two. I think the other guy who's going to be more of your change of pace running back is going to be Vic Enware. So he's 6'1", 230, while Muhammad is 5'9", 170. So Vic Enware is going to be more of like your bruising back. He's going to be more, smashing through your A gaps and your B gaps and just really taking on the blocks, just smashing through them. And he's a junior. He was only a 3-star coming out of the high school. So this guy's had to develop pretty quickly here. And, last year he actually had more carries than both Muhammad and Watson. He had 106 for 505, a 4.8 average, 42 long, and he had 8 touchdowns. So he was doing more of the red zone kind of smash the ball over the line running back role, where the other two were more kind of they can pop out from behind bubble screens and catch it through the middle between the linebackers and the nickelbacks, and they could also obviously run it through as well. But I think Vic Enware is the one to really watch for this season coming up, especially against Hawaii, obviously. But his best game last year was versus Wazoo at home in a 34-28 win. He had 5 rushes for 48 yards, a 9.6 average, and his longest was 42. I'll briefly touch on Trey Watson because I really want to get to Davis Webb in this podcast tonight. So Trey Watson is 5'10", 195 junior. Now he's a 4-star coming out of high school. So he was much more heralded than Vic, but they both came in at the same year, and that's why I think these two are going to be very important to have that chemistry as part of the running game for Cal going into this season. He had 89 carries for 504, a 5.7 average. His longest was 32, and he had 3 touchdowns. But again, he was also one of those running backs who could also transition to a receiving role. So he had 10 receptions for 106 yards, a 10.6 average, and he got 1 touchdown. His best game last season was versus Oregon State, again at home. Sorry, I've got some really funny notes here where suddenly I went off on a tangent because I saw something else on the internet pop up, and I'm like, ooh, look at that. I'm going to start writing down that thing. That thing looks interesting. My goodness. Internet. Anyway, back on track in a 54-24 win at home against Oregon State. As I said, he was 10 for 110, 11 yard average, and receiving he was 2 for 54, 27 average, and 1 touchdown. So that's the running backs. So we've been through now the wide receivers, running backs. I'm pretty sure I told you as well who's going to start for the running back, in my opinion, who I think should be starting and splitting the reps. But again, if I was going to say anyone between the two, I'd say it's going to be Kalafani Muhammad and Vic Enware, and then Trey Watson will probably be that third backup. The more interesting things that when I start reading about Cal is that they really don't have much quarterback depth. Unlike a lot of other teams who carry, they might carry up to 5 quarterbacks, but 3 of them are really, really quite good. Texas Tech. No, not Texas Tech. Cal actually don't have that depth. What I was going to say about Texas Tech is that's where Davis Webb previously obviously was in that Cliff Kingsbury offense, which is up-tempo, veer and shoot, which is totally not Davis Webb. And don't get me wrong, while Davis Webb did really well at Texas Tech, Patrick Mahomes, who will be starting for Texas Tech this year, is absolutely electric. I'm not going to be surprised if Patrick Mahomes is possibly put up for a Heisman candidate. Not a Final 3 candidate, but I think his name will definitely be thrown in there to the top 6 to top 8 candidates for that Heisman Trophy at the end of the year. But on Davis Webb, look, Davis Webb's only a 3-star coming out of high school. And he had a really good freshman year in 2013, but we're not going to go back to the stats for 2013. I'm going to take you through 2014 because that was a really important year and a turning point for Davis Webb because, he only got to play in 8 games that year. He actually ended up getting knocked out in a game against Texas in Lubbock by Quandre Diggs. Quandre Diggs absolutely walloped him from the right side as he rolled out of the pocket, and he was gone for the rest of the season. So and that's when Patrick Mahomes stepped in, and Patrick Mahomes that year really started to show Cliff Kingsbury that he can drive his offense moving forward, and that's pretty much how it carried into 2015. But but in 2014, look, here's Davis Webb. He was 211 he was sorry, let me rephrase this. He had 211 attempts. No, that's terrible. I completely am sorry for that. I am reading my scroll and it's horrible. No, he made 211 of 345 attempts. That's what I tried to say from the first, but I've actually written it down the other way around. I'm like, yeah, that can't be right. So I apologize. So he made 211 for 304 from 345. It's a 61.2 passing efficiency rate. He totaled 2,539 total yards, 24 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and he ended with a quarterback rating of 138.4 in his sophomore campaign. Some other little notes to come out from that year. He was actually 7th in pass completions in the Big 12 and 6th in efficiency rating. When you look at that, obviously in the Big 12, there's only 10 teams. So for those of you who didn't know, the Big 12 actually doesn't have 12 teams. Well, not yet. They are talking about expanding, but again, I'm not going to go down that road. At the moment, they only have 10 teams. So he was the middle-of-the-road quarterback in the Big 12 when he was there in 2014. And in 2013, he was middle of the road as well. But, here's some of the notable quarterbacks that, for those of you who follow college football quite closely, will actually know these names. I'll start off with just above him in 6th place on pass completions in the Big 12 was Clint Trickett from West Virginia University. Now, for those of you who've been watching Last Chance U, the documentary that's on Netflix, he is actually in the show, and I believe, because I saw episode 3 tonight, I believe he was actually the quarterback coach. Yeah, I believe he's the quarterback coach and co-OC, co-OC support to the community college in Last Chance U. So there's an interesting tidbit for you. But he was also behind quarterbacks like Trevon Boykin, TCU, and we all know what happened with Trevon Boykin. He tried to clean up his act after last year's season to try and get into the NFL, and another felony later, and he has pretty much destroyed his chances of getting into the NFL for this year anyway, unless he can go through the training camp system next season. But look, that's really sad. But that's once again another story. So Trevon Boykin, TCU. Patrick Mahomes was also above him. He was in 4th. Jake Waters, Kansas State University. This name you'll know, Bryce Petty. Yeah, Bryce Petty, currently on the Jets. And I would not be surprised if he or Geno Smith would be let go from the Jets, seeing as though Fitzpatrick is now there. But Bryce Petty was 2nd, and believe it or not, Bryce Petty's backup, because when Bryce Petty was injured, the backup Seth Russell came in, and he is now the current quarterback for Baylor University. Seth Russell came in, and he had overall the best pass completions in the Big 12 in 2014. So Davis Webb last year, he was overlooked. Patrick Mahomes was the man. He only got to play in 5 games because Patrick Mahomes actually got a little bit injured. So Davis Webb was able to get in there and play a little bit, but he was only seen on and off in 5 games. 22 for 41, finished with 53.7 completion rate, 300 yards only, 2 touchdowns, and a 131.2 quarterback rating. So, look, he's a senior. He's graduated. That's why he's now transferred to Cal. And look, I think under this system, he will thrive in it. He is a pocket passer. He's a stay-at-home quarterback. He's going to be looking over the top. He's got a really, really strong arm. And at 6'5", 230, he can see over a lot of D-line. So he can see more of the coverage and more of the field than most quarterbacks in college football who, the average height of a quarterback in college football is around about 6'1" at the moment. So 6'5", he's a bit of a monster sitting in the pocket there. So, pro-style quarterback. This offense at Cal that Sonny Dykes runs and Jake Spavital is perfect, coming from a similar air raid concept that was run at Texas A&M. will fit Davis Webb down to the ground. So I don't have any doubt in my mind that